In these problems, we're working on recognizing the graphs of linear equations. A linear equation is something like this. It's usually got a y on one side and then an x term with something multiplied by it usually and another number. They're called linear equations because when you graph them, they make a straight line. There are some useful shortcuts for identifying which graphs go with which equations, but there's also a foolproof method, and that's what I want to show you here. And that method is to just make a table of x and y values. So what you're going to do is choose some x numbers to put in here, and then you're going to calculate what y is by plugging those x values in to the formula. The easiest x value to choose, and the one I would always start with, is 0. If I put in 0 for x here, what I would get is y equals negative 1/2 times 0 plus 6. Well, negative 1/2 times 0, anything times 0 is just 0, so this is y equals 6. So when x is 0, y is 6. Now I want to pick another number because I need at least 2 points to determine my line. And I'm going to try to be smart about this. When there's a fraction multiplied by the x, it's probably easiest if I choose the denominator of that fraction to plug in for x. And I'll show you why. So I'm going to choose 2. I could have chosen any other number, but I'm going to choose 2. When I multiply, I get y equals negative 1/2 times 2. And those 2's are going to cancel out, so I'm left with a negative 1. And negative 1 plus 6 is 5. So I chose 2 because that just makes the math easier there. So now I've got 2 points, 0, 6 and 2, 5. And I want to find the graph that has those points on them. Well, 0, 6, let's just try on this first example. So 0 on x is right there. 6 on y would be right there. So it looks like 0, 6 is on this graph. 2 on the x would be here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Aha, looks like it is the first one. I got lucky there. So 2, 5 is on that graph. This must be our line. Let's try one more like this. So here we have y equals negative 4/3 x minus 1. Again, I'm going to make a table of x and y values. And I'm going to start by putting in 0 for x because it makes this whole chunk disappear, and we just have y equals negative 1. That was easy. Now, for my next value, I'm going to choose the denominator of this fraction so that I have y equals negative 4/3 times 3. So we're choosing 3 for x, minus 1. And the 3's cancel here, so I get negative 4 minus 1. That's a negative 5. So I've got 2 points to look for, 0, negative 1. And let's see, it looks like 0, negative 1 might be on all of these graphs. So let's look for 3, negative 5. 3, 1, 2, 3 on the x, and negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, it looks like it's a again. So there's 3, negative 5. Now, the shortcuts I was mentioning, these linear equations are written in the form of y equals mx plus b. And let me, so y equals m times x plus b. So there's some number times the x, and there's some number after the x. This plus b is always your y-intercept. That is, that's where it crosses the y-axis. So we came up with a y-intercept of negative 1 here. Negative 1 is there. The line crosses the y-axis at negative 1. And then this number, the m, in this case negative 4/3, that is the slope of the line. And lines that have a negative slope, they slope down from left to right. And lines that have a positive slope, slope up from left to right. So those two shortcuts can help you identify the correct graph. Just by looking at this one, negative 4/3 x, I knew it was either going to be A or C. I could eliminate B and D right away because their slopes are positive, and we were looking for a negative slope. So that's a little bit of work with linear equations.